I say to all of you, Shalom. Now, only a few miles from this banquet hall in Arlington National Cemetery, there is a stone. Now, there are hundreds of thousands of stones at Arlington, but this stone is different. And down the street from here, you can walk it, on Independence Avenue, there's a handsome building with big columns. And at the top of those columns are inscribed the words, the Department of Agriculture. And in the Department of Agriculture, there is an office of the National Conservatory of Resources. Now, there are many offices in Washington, and Lord knows there is no shortage of offices. But this office is unique. And then far from here, in a national park at the foot of a towering mountain, there is a visitor center. This country is blessed with hundreds of national parks and countless majestic mountains and no end of visitor centers, but this visitor center is special. The stone in Arlington marks the final resting place of Major General Orde Wingate. He was born in England at the turn of the 20th century, and Wingate was an officer in the British Army. He was an expert in Arabic. And in 1936, when the land of Israel, then called Palestine, was under the British rule, Wingate was sent to work with the Arabs. Now, the British government had promised to help the Jews rebuild their homeland, but the British forgot that promise and bent toward the Arabs. And Wingate himself had scarcely heard of Zionism, but he knew the Bible. He knew the Bible by heart. He had been raised in a pious family of Plymouth Brethren, the son of missionaries. And when Wingate saw the Zionist pioneers reclaiming the desert and resettling the barren hills of Galilee, he remembered God's eternal promise to the Jews, I shall redeem you. And Wingate became a Zionist. Though outcast by his fellow officers, Wingate became a Zionist and more. He resolved to teach the Zionists how to fight. And they had to fight, because the Zionist settlements in Galilee were under constant attack from the Arabs. And the Jews, though brave, had not had an army for 2,000 years. Wingate gave them that army. He taught young Jewish farmers like Moshe Dayan how to hold a rifle, how to strike at night, how to surprise the enemy. Wingate coined the phrase that every Israeli Defense Forces officers learn to this day, the phrase, Acharai, after me. Under Wingate's leadership, the Jews learned to defend themselves. Indeed, today, the Israel Defense Forces, in its tactics, in its ethics, in its spirit, is Wingatean. The British generals, however, they didn't forgive him for helping those Jews, and they exiled him from the land that he loved. But while they could not tear Wingate from that land, they couldn't tear the land from his heart. And he remained a tenacious Zionist. During World War II, while fighting in the wastelands of Ethiopia and in the steaming jungles of Burma, Wingate's enduring dream was to return to the land of Israel and lead the Jewish people in the fateful battle for statehood. Before flying to the front to meet with his troops in March 1944, Wingate wrote a letter to his wife Lorna, who was also a committed Zionist. He described his vision of their living and working together on one of those Jewish villages on a Galilean hill. And he signed that letter in Hebrew. He wrote, Im eshkachech Yerushalayim tishkach yemini. If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, may my right hand lose its cunning. Wingate never reached the front. The American plane that was carrying him crashed into a jungle mountain, and he was buried along with his crew right far from here in Arlington National Cemetery. You can visit him there. His stone is crowned with the rocks and pebbles that Jews place on grave sites. For we have never forgotten the man we called Hayadid, the friend. In Netanya, we have a Wingate Sports Center, and at the foot of the Carmel mountain range, you'll find a children's village named Yamin Orde, the right hand of Orde Wingate. And in every Israeli city, I guarantee you, you will find a street named for General Orde Wingate. That is the story of the stone. And what about that office over on Independence Avenue? That was the office of Walter Clay Lowdermilk. He was a former Rhodes Scholar, and he grew up in Arizona, and he drew on his experience growing up on the desert to try to find ways of helping American farmers to preserve their soil and improve their irrigation. He lent his expertise to other countries in the world, to Belgium and to China, but there was one country that Lowdermilk was sworn to serve, and that was the land of Israel. For Lowdermilk was an ardent Christian, the husband of a missionary. And in 1938, 1 year after the British kicked Wingate out of Palestine, Lowdermilk arrived there. Now those British, they claimed that our arid land could never support as much as 1 million people, but Lowdermilk didn't believe them, not for a second. He used America's own Tennessee Valley Authority as a model for devising a nationwide irrigation system to serve all of those newfound Jewish villages. Lowdermilk likened the Zionist pioneers to the original American frontiersmen. The future Jewish state, he predicted, will, quote, lift the entire Near East from desolation to dignity. And in his lifetime, Lowdermilk saw his prophecy fulfilled. He saw the land once again flourish. He saw the sands revived into life-giving earth, and the deserts transformed into gardens. Now you can visit that office at the Department of Agriculture, or the next time in Jerusalem, you can visit the Lowdermilk Center at one of our leading universities. There you can see Israeli scientists continuing Lowdermilk's work and realizing the biblical vision, a land of wheat and of barley, a land of fig trees and vines and pomegranates, a land flowing with milk and honey that sustains today not 1 million people, but 7.5 million people. Lastly, there is that visitor center. As I said, it's situated in a forest at the foot of Washington's Mount Rainier, and the center bears the name of Henry Scoop Jackson. He was raised a Lutheran by a mother who, as a little girl, had to walk 17 miles every Sunday to go to church. And from her, Jackson learned about the Jewish people. My mom, he recalled, was a Christian who taught me to respect the Jews and to help the Jews, and it was a lesson I never forgot. Later, as a young man, he visited the Buchenwald concentration camp that had just been liberated, and he swore that the Jews would never again have to suffer such massacres. His upbringing and his experiences led Jackson to become a tireless advocate for Israel, first as a congressman and later as a senator from Washington. But Jackson's most outstanding contribution to the Jewish people came in 1974. That year, he joined with Congressman Charles Vanek from Ohio in proposing a law linking U.S. trade with the Soviet Union to fulfilling the right of Soviet Jews to immigrate to Israel. Passed unanimously by both houses, the Jackson-Vanek Amendment liberated our people from the evil Soviet Empire. Nearly 1 million Jews found freedom in the state of Israel. One of those Jews you know quite well, Natan Sharansky, today the chairman of the Jewish Agency. Sharansky praised Jackson for what he called his moral clarity and for starting the, quote, chain of events that led to the fall of Soviet communism. Henry Scoop Jackson, defender of Israel, fighter for Jewish rights, a torchbearer of faith. At Mount Rainier, you can visit the center that is emblazoned with his name, or the next time, again in Jerusalem, you can pay homage to him at the beautiful square that is named for him and is dedicated to his memory. A stone, an office, a center, these are merely destinations, friends. But they represent a devotion many hundreds of years old and nurtured in the hearts of millions. The stone, the office, the center, they are the timeless testaments to the unconditional commitment and love of Christian Zionists for Israel. Today, perhaps more than any other time in recent memory, we need that devotion. We are facing thousands of terrorist rockets aimed at our families. We are facing international efforts to delegitimize Israel, to deny us the right to defend ourselves, deny us the right even to define ourselves as a Jewish state. And we are facing a raging and uncertain Middle East and an Iranian nuclear program designed to wipe us off the map. Today, we must draw on the passion you display in your words and by your deeds and through your faith. Today, we remember Henry Jackson, Walter Clay Lowdermilk, and Orde Wingate. We remember Jackson, who helped lead our people out of bondage and into the promised land. We remember Lowdermilk, who helped those people reclaim the land, and we remember Wingate, who helped our people to defend that land. We remember these three Christians who believed in the biblical promises and helped fulfill them. We thank them, and we thank you for continuing to carry out that vision. You are living testaments to the eternal bond between the people of Israel and the rock of Israel. Each and every one of you can join me tonight in proclaiming Acharai. Can you say it? Acharai. After me to Galilee, after me to Jerusalem, after me to the proud and free state of Israel. Thank you.